This is so important. And this book to me, I don't say this lightly, but it could be such a game changer for so many teens, but not just teens, but communities. If people would jump on the idea and what Alfred has done. Alfred H. Kurland joins us. He's the author of this important book I'm talking about. The soul of adolescence aligns with the heart of democracy. Orphans, rebels, and civic lovers unite. I am on board with that. And he's on board with us here on Author's Corner on America Tonight with me, Kate Delaney. Alfred, thanks for coming on.
Okay, thank you so much for having me here.
So there's such a purpose here, and this is your life's purpose. Tell us what drove you to write this book and what you've experienced.
Well, by the time I got serious about writing the book, circa about 2020, I had been engaged for about 30 years in originating, managing, and co-leading programs that emphasized the participation of teens as co-leaders in both managing the agencies and later on in trying to influence public policy in New York City. So as I retired after 22 years from the Police Athletic League, that gave me an opportunity and to say no more excuses. It's time to focus on kind of gathering the fragments of the stories and the books together into a coherent narrative. And what I was trying to do with the book is exhibit it as a local tale. This one based originally in Uptown Manhattan, Washington Heights, New York, and eventually throughout the whole city of New York, about how when adults give a platform and an opportunity for teenagers to engage in civic projects and also public policy recommendations, that it contributes to the healthy development as young adults, and at the same time, both communities and municipalities derive the benefits of their unique and original insights about what we need to do to move forward.
And your path in this book, and you talk about it, you talk about some of the big influential moments. You talk about, at one point, sadly, having a roommate murdered during the peak of a lot of the violence in Washington Heights. That had to be one of the moments. What was that like?
Well, what those moments did, and they were obviously traumatic and challenging for me, is it brought home on a different level the meaning of addressing community violence. Is this young woman who I had taken in, I thought temporarily just as a roommate until she got a place of her own and was not guilty of any illegal activity, but had gotten a divorce from a man that was involved in it. To have this person so brutally murdered, my own roommate, a person who seemed so warm and compassionate and caring about her own family, forced me to reevaluate both my emotional and my social emotional engagement with the issue of community violence, because I went through a lot of the same feelings and fears that people in communities like Washington Heights and Harlem and East New York and Brooklyn have to go through almost on a daily and weekly basis just to keep moving forward. So I developed a much deeper and grounded sense of empathy for both their challenges, but also for their genius in being able to, keep their lives going.
Yeah. And in the book, what's so cool is you share those moments, you're real about those moments, and you talk about different movements, like, the March for Our Lives, for example. You talk about, the contributions teenagers are making at the municipal levels in the city of New York. And I think this can be done and repeated in other places. That's why I think it's so important for so many other people to get their hands on this. And you talk about right in the very beginning, Uptown Dreamers. And that was something that happened in the mid 80s. And that was, a city park, a neglected city park, which would be an incredible public space. And it was working on that. So it's all kinds of issues that affect a community and bringing teenagers into the fold, so to speak. And how does that help them on the road to becoming an adult?
Well, I'm glad you brought up the issue with the Dreamers and Southern Heights communities organized for public service. Because when we went into the park initially, what we did is we did the traditional thing that good neighbors do. We came in with brooms and shovels and we cleaned up. Mm-hmm. And then a week later, we went in again and had to clean up again, and et cetera, et cetera. It was kind of like a revolving door of just barely keeping the park in usable condition. So what the Dreamers did, together with its leader, Coach David Crenshaw, and myself, was train young people to talk about the park, the value of the park to children and families, and their need to have it be clean and to be a safe space, and to have the facilities so young people can engage in helpful activities. And in one case, Miriam Payne, who was at the time about 15 years old, a member of our Explorer Post 280, who was trained by us to do a presentation to a community board in Washington Heights, community board number 12, on trying to solicit help from the very city agencies that had not been paying enough attention to that park. And although she was so helpful at the after-school programs we ran, she really was quite the shy, reticent type of personality. But she readily took on the challenge, appeared at the board, and as Dave and I and other supporters crossed our fingers in the back of the room, she just launched into this spirited speech about the importance of that park, to our neighborhood and to her. And I think it resulted in dual benefits. On the one hand, it improved the confidence of Miriam at making public presentations. It helped her in organizing notes and presentations, which would be useful to her as she went on to graduate from high school and on to college. Today, she's a registered nurse and also just completed a degree in social work. And at the same time, city agencies such as New York City Parks and the local precinct responded by coming in and monitoring the park and doing a better job at cleaning the park and actually facilitating the agenda of getting the park rehabilitated. If people go to that park, or we used to call it the pit because of all the challenges of putting it in shape, it is now a beautiful place and gets incorporated into an annual event called Hike to Heights, where people celebrate the more beautiful places, both in nature and museums in the neighborhood.
Wow.
So
well, what a beautiful story. I'm glad that you brought us full circle with that. And, you talk about co-mentoring and the importance of that. And you were that person. Absolutely. For you, what has it given to your life to be able to help so many teenagers?
Well, the idea of co-mentoring is that an adult who comes, to the stage of civic engagement with many skills and understandings and history involvement cannot promote stability and change without incorporating the voices of young people. And I talk about it in the book where I talk about steps of engagement in different programs, helping me to transform into a more enlightened and an effective youth leader when working with teenagers. So, for instance, I just talked about the park. There was another program that was initiated by me together with Ivy Fairchild, who at the time was the Director of Community Relations for Columbia University. The program is called the Ivy League Uptown Wins. And what the goals were A, to level the playing field in sports. There were plenty of ball fields and basketball courts that were loaded with young male players, which is a good thing, but no fields were specifically dedicated to girls softball teams or girls basketball programs. So this organization went on a mission to both educate parents and the public about the importance of legislation like Title IX, which guaranteed equal opportunity to girls and young women, and also about the importance of engaging at the local level so girls could personally experience the value of teamwork and also engagement with very, very trusted and powerful allies, such as the Women's Sports Foundation, which gave them an opportunity to present not only at the local level, but also at the national level at their national conferences.
Wow, how huge is that? We only have 40 seconds left and we could talk forever and
Right.
we will circle back with you. But what do you hope people take away from reading your book, The Soul of Adolescence Aligns with the Heart of Democracy, Orphans, Rebels, and Civic Leaders Unite? Get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. What do you hope the takeaway is?
Okay, so I'm hoping what the takeaway is for adult leaders to broaden their spectrum of invitation to young people, where they're not invited just to extend opinions or to give advice to adults, but also are given a place at the table of advisory and decision making, both in local agendas, for community improvement, but also for what an organization like Public Agenda, Youth Agenda does of transforming municipal policy to be more responsive to youth needs.
On that note, Alfred Kurland, The Soul of Adolescence Aligns with the Heart of Democracy, Orphans, Rebels, and Civic Lovers Unite. Get it on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. Thanks.